welcome to another episode of Into the Foxhole. I'm Jeff Fox, and today I'm joined by my partner in crime and lovely wife, Julia.
Hello.
This is episode number 5. Woo! I never knew if I'd make it to 5.
Cinco.
And today we'd like to talk about hospitality industry, particularly servers, because, and this is something that I meant to do before we had an outbreak of a deadly virus, but now it seems even more pertinent to say so that people who work as food servers, waiters, bussers, bartenders, toil every day in sometimes very harsh environment or circumstances just to make sure that some people who come in have a nice, pleasant dining experience. We basically came together to share some of our horror stories about working as servers. And who knows, maybe there'll be some glimmers of hope in there. I just really wanted to throw out there that, of course, more than ever now, people who work in restaurants need some positivity and some support. So first, I wanted to talk about experiences. You're kind of quiet over there.
What? I'm waiting.
Well, so I jotted down some...
Waiting for your spiel, you know? Tell me about the specials of the day.
We have a very nice farm-raised Portland, Oregon chicken.
Okay, this actually brings me to one example. Okay, so like when I started as a server, I worked in a 4-star restaurant, had no previous experience, so I was kind of thrown into like the wealthiest people in Tampa. And, you know, there's like moments where you have somebody asking you like specifics about the meat or where it came from. I think there's like a Portlandia episode about that. And that happened to me where I was like, somebody was looking, one of the servers, I don't know if it was you or whoever, but was staring at me the whole time that I just pulled this story out of my ass about where this pig came from.
That's beautiful.
And I even gave it a name and I was like, it's from this place. And the people were just like, oh, wow. They wanted to know and I didn't know. And I didn't have time to go look it up.
I don't know. It's a fucking farm.
Yeah. But in the end, I feel like they don't even really care sometimes. Like,
you and my brother have that gift to be able to do that. Like I would probably bomb. But you reminded me of a time when I was working with my brother and we had different sections, but our tables were side by side. And I overheard him telling his guests he wanted to know about some farm-raised chicken, where it came from or something. He was like, oh, he said, oh, at this farm, they even feed the chickens ice cream. And they were just like hook, line, and sinker. Like, really? It's like, oh yeah, they take it out.
Yeah.
You know, almost like a field trip.
And that was when I had more experience talking to tables because my first run was terrible. I mean, I completely forgot to put an order in. And my manager was like, you can't just not put people's order in. And he even made up this whole thing to these two assholes, I have to say. I don't know who they were, but they were definitely pigs. 2 men. Because the one guy touched me and it was weird. When I was walking by, he like grabbed me, but it was like by my hip, and it was just weird. And they were already jerks. Mm-hmm. But my manager just made up this whole thing about like these shrimp. They had to be the best shrimp.
He smoothed it out really well.
He smoothed it out, yeah.
I feel like even some of the best servers sometimes have that terrible night where they might forget to put in an order because, you know, let's face it, anxiety can fuck with your mind.
For sure.
If you get put in a situation where you've got too many guests to really keep track of, and like, especially if one of those tables is like, can you take the chicken off of that entree? I want that chicken, but I don't want those peppercorns that are on it. And can you take the truffled mac and cheese off of that other entree and put it on this plate?
And I have friends that do that.
I'm not really a fan of truffles, so...
Yeah, and that's why I like that podcast we listened to with Farrell Alvarez he was like spot on too, and he said this is how We do it. There's no substitutions. And that's how it should be. If you're going to order
Yeah.
something that a chef created, you're there for the experience.
Yeah.
You know, like the best, like obviously there's some people that need certain modifications. But, you know, anytime you and I have gone out and we kind of go along with what the best suggestion is, it ends up being the best night.
I think if you go into a place in the mindset that like, I'm gonna have a steak and a potato. Why didn't you go to fucking Outback then
Yeah.
instead of walking into this place where there's a studied chef who's making, you know, artistic, interesting
I think
plates?
it's about being seen, maybe, or like
I
the
think there's a
people that
control
have-
thing.
That's true. That's true. There was a reoccurring guest that we had, and it was never good enough. No matter how, every single time that piece of meat would get sent back. And I think it was just a control thing. It had to be
Or OCD.
OCD. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I had written down one of these here that says people who treat servers like punching bags. I've certainly had people come in who like, I just feel like there's nothing I can do to make them happy, no matter how nice I try to be. And like, oh, is there anything I can do? Even if they're to the point where they're complaining about their food. Oh, I'm so sorry about that. Let me correct whatever's wrong. You know, there's some people that like from the second they sit down at your table are like, where the hell you been?
Yeah.
You're like, I mean, I've literally told some customers, I just watched you sit down like 60 seconds ago,
yeah.
man.
Everybody should try to serve once in their life, because you really like get a taste of just what it's like to kind of wait on a person, you know, like
Yeah.
it's just like a interesting experience, because as you
Should be a high school elective.
it should be like, I mean, it teaches you a lot about people and like about yourself too. I mean, you're up there and you're basically acting,
Right.
and I've never been good at like,
I used to have a manager that always said, when you're on the floor, you're on stage.
yeah, that's how it felt all the time. And those nightmares like are real.
Yeah, so I'd love to. I wish there was like another server besides you and me here to
I know.
go, hey, do you have nightmares? Because, but no, I just thought that like it'd be really interesting to hear some feedback maybe from other servers who listen to this to see if like other people are like, yes, I have that nightmare.
Well, you have the nightmare. I have the night. I still to this day have the nightmare.
Yeah, I don't anymore.
See, that's weird
But-
that you don't, because I do.
Well, for me, it was just when I was doing it and maybe like, you know, a couple months after.
Like I still have those nightmares where I'm never gonna get to
You were
all the tables.
traumatized.
I was traumatized. One of those nightmares came true. Like I had to work a lunch shift. I got like my entire, like the restaurant usually at lunchtime, you get sat all at one time, and you know,
And
I think-
everybody's in a hurry.
and everybody's in a hurry. Everybody wants their food. And the one thing that people don't get is people come in that sit down to eat, order food, or they see a table that's open. They don't understand the dynamics of a restaurant. And so they're already mad. And it's like your server busts their ass to try to get that shift over with, because they want money too. They want things to go smoothly. But it's like, you know, you get your whole section sat and then you get like a giant party. And it's like, I hid behind a column, and I told my manager, I'm like, I cannot physically.
You're having like a panic
I
attack,
had
basically, right?
Yeah, I like my whole self just hid, and I was like, I can't do it. I cannot get it, that party their water. Like
Yeah.
everything is falling apart.
I had some of
terrible.
those. You remember when I worked with you, that dining room 4 over there on the other side? That was 6 tables. So, you know, just to give people some perspective, and you're talking about a section that had a table that could seat 10 people at it.
Which they would
But,
squeeze, try to get.
You know, let's say you have
more
6
in there.
tables that can fit 4 people to each one. If all of those get sat within a span of about 10 minutes, in 10 minutes time, you've been given 24 people to serve and wait on and have all the details of their stuff right and make sure that their drink arrives at the right time before their appetizer.
But then,
And
But then the other thing to think about too is the whole restaurant. Like you have other servers that have tables that are getting sat at the same time, and then your kitchen staff.
So what happens to the kitchen?
The
Yeah, or the
kitchen's
bar?
trying to get everybody in the bar. It's like a ripple effect. But the people that are wanting the service will never see that. They'll just, where's my food? Yeah, that should be an elective in high school. I definitely agree.
I was going to tell you that I have some different perspective since I started out in corporate chain restaurants on the lower end when I was younger.
I did work at Cheesecake Factory for like
I wouldn't call that the
months.
lower end. Like, my first serving job was Red Lobster and Brandon.
What's the happy birthday song? Happy birthday.
Yeah, you want to talk about scarring? Check this out. Happy birthday. We're really glad you came. Happy birthday from the Lobster Gang. We hope you had a good time on your special day. So happy birthday. Hooray, hooray, hooray. Hey!
Hey! Wow.
Ah! And then from Red Lobster, I went on to serve at Chili's in Brandon for like a year and a half, close to 2 years.
Oh, wow. Yeah, Chili's.
That was long before I figured out that to make real money, you had to get out of those low end chains and go to where the plates were priced higher and just the quality of the food was higher.
Mm-hmm.
But like some of my experiences there, I didn't really have this in the higher end joints, but like people with little containers with Cheerios for their babies.
Oh, yeah.
Man.
Oof.
It was worse at Red Lobster because the whole place was carpeted. So when somebody would destroy the floor like that with those and crush them in, we had to literally bring out a vacuum into the dining room.
I know why they have carpet though. Cheesecake Factory, I would walk them to their table and they would slip. I thought that.
And then they're going, oh, my neck and my back.
I thought somebody was going to break their leg and try to sue them or something like.
I always wondered about the carpet, like, how gross is this?
Probably pretty gross.
I guess it's because like Brandon was a very family community, like a shit ton of subdivisions and just a lot of family housing. There was so many families coming with kids and little babies with the Cheerios.
Sounds like a nightmare.
But you could relate to this. I'll always remember this experience I had when I was waiting on a table at Chili's. I think it was lunchtime. But this even relates to working at the higher end places and telling people the specials. I was going around the table trying to get orders. And I'm sure you've been there where like some people at the table get it and they're prompt and they're like, I'll have this. Or like, I'll have this and this. Or they ask you one question and they're like, oh, okay, good. I'll have that. And then you have someone else at the table who's like, so, tell me about this. So I get around and I'm talking to probably like the third person in line, and there's a person sitting right across from them, right? This person asked me a question about one of the entrees, and it's pretty detail specific about what's on that plate. And I go through all of that. And then they go, okay, I'm not going to get that. I'll have this. I go to the next person they're next and they're within earshot. And they look up at me and they ask me, can you tell me about that? And it's the same plate that I just described everything about. Yeah. And, I cannot hold that stuff to myself. So I was like, I just said all that. Oh, I wasn't listening. Oh. Yeah. But I'm sure you've probably had that too, right? You go through the specials.
For sure. And you gotta...
And then someone goes, oh, I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention.
Yeah, you gotta repeat stuff.
I used to do this thing, and I think this was more when I was working in those Brandon chain joints, where I would walk up to a table and I'd say, hey, everybody, how are you today? And they go, iced tea.
Didn't even acknowledge you.
Yeah.
That's happened to me before.
And after a while, I got so fed up with it, I would go, I'm sorry, did you say iced tea? And some people would get it, and they go, I'm sorry, hi, how are you? But other people would go, yeah, fucker, I said iced tea.
What?
No, they wouldn't say fucker, I just threw it. But they were thanking it. It'd be like, yeah, didn't you hear me? And bring me a glass of that Merlot, too.
Old Brad Pitt in your Merlot.
So this is a really funny Chili's story, too. I told you this before.
Does it have to do with the quesadilla explosion?
Well, you know what? When I was working there was like a third of the population that came in there that mispronounced things.
Quesadilla. My mom says
Quesadilla,
quesadilla.
fajitas,
Fajita.
um, and that also pertained to the wines. So that was where I heard Cabernet Sauvignon
Yeah.
and Merlot. I had that Pinot. So I was working at like a lunch at Chili's one day, and this couple comes in, and I can tell who I have on my hands because the guy is kind of reminiscent of that dude that's in the Tiger King show everybody talks about. Like he has that look about
He's
him.
got a mullet.
Probably.
A mullet and a spray tan.
He had some telltale signs of a certain type. And
some secret tattoo paws on his
so
ass.
when I'm like asking him if they want some drinks, and he holds up the little table menu that they've made that's got like vivid pictures, he points to this gigantic fishbowl margarita that's like sky blue, very like royal blue margarita. And he's like, I'll have that. I go, you want this? And he goes, yeah. I'm like, you want that one? This one right here? Yeah. Okay. I just wanted to be certain I didn't want to get it wrong or anything. So it comes out and I deliver it and I sit it down in front of him and he's like, what is this? And I said, I was dumbfounded actually and taken aback and I was stunned. So it took me like 10 seconds to respond. And I went, it's the drink you ordered. He's like, I didn't order that.
I think that happened to me before, and I had to switch the drink into a manly cup or something. It was for a guy.
Oh, wow.
And they were like, oh, this is fine. But it was like in a more feminine glass.
Wow. So he felt emasculated.
Yeah.
What do I look like? Some kind of quitter? Quitter?
Oh, no.
Hey, I didn't say it. Billy Joe said it.
Sometimes your servers try and help you out, man. Gotta pay attention to what they're saying. They're there to guide you on your ride, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, and sometimes you're gonna get an asshole server because they're having a really bad day. But for the most part, I think most of them are trying to help you out.
I feel like some of the most calloused servers that I ever came across in the industry were that way because working in the industry made them that way. Like if you have any kind of humanity about you and you go into serving, like people will tear you the fuck down within your first month of doing it, to where basically you have a conversation with yourself like, okay, I have to get tough and let shit roll off of me and not take all these people's comments and behaviors. Yeah. You're either cut out for that or you're not.
Yeah.
Lifers. We knew some lifers.
Yeah. How long did you work? I think I did like 8 or 9 years.
Well, if you count my most recent part-time job, which was almost 2 years ago, I basically did it for around 20 years.
20 years?
I mean, I left and pursued some things sometimes. I had a lot of restaurant jobs. Few of them were crazier than this place I worked at called Piazza Roma that was in the International Plaza. It's been at least 10 different restaurants. I don't even know what it is now, but when I worked there, it was an Italian place owned by a couple of doctors. And they, like, these people, the only experience they had with the restaurant industry was like subscribing to this restaurant magazine. They'd come in and call a meeting with the staff to like refer to some article in their magazine.
Weird.
This place, unlike any other one I ever worked at, had like the highest turnover and the highest probability that someone would not show up. And so like working there was so much crazier, I think, than any other restaurant job I had, because any given day they might be like, hey man, for whatever reason, the bartender didn't show up and neither did our pizza cook. So basically, do you know how to make pizza? And I literally had a shift where I was waiting like on all the tables in the dining room, then throwing on an apron, going behind the pizza counter, making the pizzas, throwing them in the oven, taking that apron off, going back to the tables in the dining room, juggling that shit.
Jeez.
Can't remember if I was washing dishes too. But needless to say, we did a little drinking at that job. That's just a taste of some of the hell that people go through trying to bring joy to others and make a living.
And by the way, put your goddamn cell phones away when you're eating your goddamn dinner.
Are customers who drink easier to wait on? I mean, I felt like from my experience, going to a table that like as soon as I walk up to them, they're like, "Hey, bring me this," and I bring it.
I'd say for like your your bill, yeah, but maybe from my point of view as a female server, not that
Oh,
great sometimes.
well, I don't mean like getting drunk
Yeah.
drinking. I just mean like I've seemed to notice anecdotally that people who as soon as they sit down get a drink
Are
seem to
more
be like
chill.
more chill and relaxed and
Yeah.
less likely to ask you where shit is or why you're gone so long, blah blah blah.
Yeah. I would say yes then on that. Because I'm one of those
Yeah.
people too. I like to have a drink first.
You might order the drink first, then look over the appetizers.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe by the time the drinks have landed, you're like, oh, throw in one of these for me. You know what that also makes me think of is like there's a certain threshold that you will cross if you ask your server for too much guidance on what the hell you want to drink. Like, I understand if you're like, so what kind of bourbons you got? And I'm like, oh, well, I got this and this and this and this and this. Oh, well, I tend to like ones with these kind of flavors or notes. Oh, well, this one's good and this one's good, or this one. But like, I've had people literally be like, I don't really know what I want. Do you think I should get? Do you think I should get a red wine or a white wine? I'm like, you want me to tell you what to fucking do? I mean, yeah, okay. And in a lot of cases, I go, well, it's a pretty warm summer day. I might go with a white.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, how?
People are persuadable, man.
I see you have Chardonnay. I'm feeling crazy. And then, like, after that, can I have a taste of this? Sure. That's fine. You bring it, they taste it. No, I didn't like that.
Yeah.
You're doing another tasting. And, I'm just saying, like, people have some social tact or like some consciousness about like the person's time. Like, I guess that's really what this boils down to is I think that some people when they go out feel like, well, I'm paying for this, so people should be able to do whatever it is I need to be accommodated for my time here, which, to me is kind of a like a closed view, a tunnel vision that's more like, well, fuck it, self-centered than being kind of aware of like everyone else around you and how the people within the restaurant work as a team, how the whole thing functions. This is a really good point because this kind of segues into what I wanted to talk about with you. People who still tip 15%.
Or 4.
Yeah, that shit. Oh, God. When people just totally stiff a server, I don't know, man. I really try to understand it.
Yeah, I think I've gone up to somebody and said, was there something wrong with your service? And I've also been told not to do that from management, which I didn't agree with.
Right.
Because I think
the management should go
for sure
do that.
Yeah, I agree. And it's, it's people that have money.
Yeah.
It's like you understand when it's like a younger couple, maybe it's their first time going out, but usually they even know.
You're able to gauge those things.
To tip properly.
Like if you see one of those metal black American Express cards and then they give you a shitty ass tip, you're like, whoa.
Yeah. People are weird about that, about the tipping.
So basically, that's a standard that was set around 25 years ago. So just think about that for just a moment. Let's say 20 years ago, what were you paying for a gallon of gas as opposed to what you were paying this year? And adjust. And now think about like your dumbass still tipping 15% 20 years later. and how crazy that is.
Well, also, I think it comes down to people not understanding too how much a server makes an hour,
Right.
and also the amount of work that they do on a shift. It's not
Yeah.
just bringing you your food, it's cleaning up your shit when you're done. Basic, like
Or cleaning the kitchen.
cleaning the kitchen, and then
Side work people.
right, and then they have the bussers, so like everybody sort of helps each other out in the restaurant.
Yeah.
And I think some people don't really think about how much goes into that one person that's taking care of you at your table, like how much everybody relies on each other to do that for you.
How about it that, I don't know what you would say, 4-star, 5-star restaurant that we worked at where like there was a banquet hall like down the hall,
Oh God, that
and
was
we would
miserable.
carry like solid wood
That was the
tables.
worst thing ever.
I mean, that hallway had to be like
Ugh.
30 feet.
Yeah, it was terrible.
That was some back-breaking work.
Oh, there was, I don't even know how any of us did that.
I continued to do that shit when I went to work at the other one over here by us, carrying tables around the building, outside.
I mean, the little secrets that servers go through, that they're forced to go through sometimes just to make it comfortable for people, that goes unseen.
Yeah.
And it's like,
And that may be part of the problem, a person's perception, because they look over and they see a server standing next to the computer, like, oh, look, he's just over there posted up against the wall.
right.
But they're not taking that into account, that the person comes in an hour before their shift even starts to get everything set up, and that they stay 2 or 3 hours after their shift's over.
Polish every single piece of your silverware, every glass, to make sure everything
Scrub
is
floors.
perfection for you when
Yeah.
you get there. That does go unseen. You got to think about that when you go to a restaurant. It's not just like when you go to Chili's
Yeah.
and shit's just rolled up in a fake napkin. Some servers really bend over backwards for getting
Yeah.
ready for their tables.
Oh, yeah. And I also wanted to add with the tipping thing that as part of the research for this, I just Googled 15% tip. And one of the things that came up was a common online question being, what should I tip? And whatever website this was, I didn't write it down, was saying like, oh, well, that depends on the service. Some people give 15% for, not very good service. Some people give 20 for, and I found it interesting that they're saying 20 is for like above
Exceptional.
expectation service.
I'm not gonna lie. There's been times when I got shit service, and I was like, oof, I really don't want to give this
But,
person
like-
20%. But sometimes I do, and there has been times where I probably went to 18 was like my lowest, because I was like,
Yeah.
you didn't even acknowledge my essence, Like, it was
Your essence.
terrible. And there's been some badass servers, like at a breakfast place that we've gone to, and if I have money, I will
I'm pretty sure
surprise
we've
them
tipped like 30% before.
and be like, here's some extra for you because
Like
you
maybe
were
Yeah, like maybe we had a good week and we're like, oh, we did really well.
pay it forward. Yeah.
Part of what kind of led me to start looking into some of this stuff was that documentary I had on this morning by CBS. CBS does a series called Reverb. They're actually usually really good, and this one's called Surviving an Unlivable Wage, and it was kind of talking about the fact that, and I looked this up on the Department of Labor's website. There's still like 15 states in the United States that have the $2.13
That's crazy.
wage for servers.
There's no way they can survive off of that.
The only reason that Florida is at like 525, 515, 525 is because Florida legislators voted for that. But, part of the problem is there still is not a federal level mandate to say states should be paying a tipped worker this. I'm pretty sure under Obama they tried to get that passed, and it wouldn't make it past the Republican-controlled House.
Why? Like, why do they care?
It has to do with economics, and I don't even
Yeah.
try to fool people into thinking I understand how macroeconomics works. There was a quote that stayed with me from one of the women that they were interviewing, because I hear this, and like even doing my work with the homeless, I hear this all the time from people who, honestly, from what I've learned, never really had a struggle in their life. Not like some of the other people I've met who, from coming out of the womb, have struggled.
Right.
And she said that some people say, well, you chose that job.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I liked her response, which was sometimes people don't.
Right.
It's sometimes it's just all you can get.
Yeah.
It made me think of how basically my first job was serving. And after doing that for about 2 or 3 years, that's where you get to that point where if you're trying to apply for anything else, people go, well, you don't have any experience in this
Right.
field. Like, well, yeah, but.
And it's all about probably wording, I'm sure, too, because I feel like so much of what I did serving. So when I left serving and I worked in a corporate office environment, the people that I worked with in that setting were such babies. I couldn't believe like how different of a lifestyle it was. Just the tiniest thing would upset them. There's HR, there's
Oh.
like it was, they would complain about just the craziest things. And to me, it was like
first world problems.
yeah, because I was like, man, y'all would have never survived working at a restaurant. Like, thank God I did that first because it made my skin thicker, like
Yeah.
there was stuff people would say that I'm like, that would seriously never hurt my feelings. Like I could give a shit less because when you work in a restaurant, there is no HR. Like you have to fend for yourself. And
Yeah.
you do work with some people that are not nice. And
Some of them were straight up conniving.
Conniving. Oh, yeah.
I can't tell you how many times I got snaked out of a good table by somebody else.
Yeah, they're...
But, I really think that
yeah.
again boils down to the scarcity argument, which is if you're making a close to unlivable wage, you're hungry.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, I need money. I need it.
But also you work with some of the most intelligent people.
Yeah.
Like I had a table one time, it was 4 like older people, and one of the guys like was making fun of all of the servers. And he asked like, he insinuated that like I hadn't gone to school or like I hadn't gone to college. I was uneducated. And I was like, actually, like I'm in college right now I was like at the time doing art history or something. And he was like, oh, I'm actually surprised by that. And I was like, and so I pointed out to every single server that was working with me at that dining room.
Yeah.
And I said, he is going for economics. He speaks 5 different languages. And I just kept listing all the people just so that he'd get a taste of these are the people that are serving you.
It would have been...
We're actually really intelligent people. Like how dare you?
The most awesome response you could have done would have been, oh, what do you do? And then when he told you, I'm so surprised by that.
That would have been good. But I thought it was important that he knew, you know what I mean? That he knew that all of the people that were serving him were very educated and had lived lives. And this is where we're at right now. There should be no shame for somebody serving. You shouldn't have to feel like serving people. But see,
to me, that kind of speaks to the divide. I know it doesn't exist everywhere between all people, but there is definitely a class thing between some people who have a lot of wealth and a certain level of prestige within the community or the business world
that frown upon it,
that just think we're a bunch of servants there to do whatever they want.
It's not good enough, or like some jobs are just not good enough. You should push yourself harder. And it's like
pull your steel foot by your bootstraps.
Yeah, like some people enjoy that. They probably love it,
Yeah.
I don't, but like
we enjoy dining.
Right. I would never look down upon anybody, no matter what age that is in that industry, because I was there, and you got to fucking do what you got to do to make money to feed your family, feed yourself. Like,
I'll say I
you know?
worked with some of the most knowledgeable servers I've ever met,
Yeah.
that could just give me the entire background of where like a certain variety of, I don't know, of a pig or spirits came from.
I'm grateful for everything I learned from serving because it helped me understand about good food, good
Yeah.
wine, like just to understand
What
that
good
side of it
food
more.
means.
Yeah. And also the business of it too. Like
Yeah.
since I started as host and sort of ran the restaurant, I got to oversee how it functioned.
Like the game plan.
Right. So I had servers pissed at me before. So it's like I understand even from hosts. I get their pain
Yeah.
too. And it's like that sucks. But I also, when I was serving and the host sat me, I was pissed. I was like, come on. Like, why do you not see that?
I recall from my last job having that moment where I'm looking at one person's section and going, they got like 4 tables and I have 0.
Yeah,
And having to walk up to that person and go, what do you notice about my section over here?
I know.
It's empty.
I think the hardest part too is like the people that come in and they expect to be seated and it's always the man. I'm sorry, dudes, but that walks around the restaurant slowly and then he comes back up and then he's like, I see a lot of empty tables. So why are we waiting? And it's like, dude, we have reservations that are about to come in. Like if they don't show up, we will seat you. So like those people that do that need to
You should
need to
go,
stop.
well, now you're being penalized for
Yeah.
walking around the restaurant
Yeah, it's
and
so
thinking
weird.
you're no better.
It's totally like they're a mafia or something. Like, let me go walk around and see. Let me yeah.
I will say I've definitely had some women or wives or whatever like be like, "What about that one back there?"
Right.
But it's weird. So getting back to the low wage,
Oh, yeah.
I just wanted to point out to people who the National Restaurant Association is, or as they're often referred to, the other NRA. God. Doing equally shitty things sometimes. So they're established in 1919 and they're headquartered in, guess where? Washington, D.C.
I
But
almost said Arkansas. I don't know why.
apparently they have lobbied for over 20 years to keep that 213 minimum in place. I have no reason why. They have reasons to think that restaurants will have to like fire people if they have to pay them more than that. So in the 2013 Salon article,
Slan. No, you say
Schlan. So the the article is called "The Other NRA: How the National Restaurant Association Ensures Poverty Wages." And I will try to remember this time to include the link in the comments section. But I took this excerpt from the article, which says in June, and this of course was 2013, the NRA boasted that its lobbyists had stopped minimum wage increases in 27 out of 29 states in 2013. In Connecticut, which increased its state minimum wage, a raise in the base pay for tipped workers such as waitresses and bartenders vanished in the final bill. A similar scenario unfolded in New York State. It increased its minimum wage, but the NRA's last minute lobbying derailed raising the pre-tip wage at restaurants and bars.
why.
It's hard to know because it goes on to say that the NRA's also blocked at least a dozen states from passing laws that would require earned paid sick leave for people who work in restaurants.
See, and that is wrong because this actually reminds me of when serving, if you got sick, and I'm sure this still happens to a lot of people, if you didn't find somebody to work your shift,
Oh,
it
yeah.
was like you were going to get fired or you had to somehow magically be there.
Here's
like
something.
magically get better.
This should gross people out. I remember working plenty of shifts where I could not stop my nose from running.
Yeah.
that I'm pretty sure it dripped on somebody's plate while I was passing
Gross.
it. But that's the
Gross.
danger
Right.
that a place runs when they're like,
Yeah.
well, you have to come in.
I mean, people get sick. So it's like if
Yeah.
you have a full-time job and you're serving, why the hell don't you have sick? You should, you know,
Yeah.
because not everybody can cover your shift. People have lives, and it's like, what are you supposed to do? I mean, there was a time I think I had like pink eye or something, and I told my manager, I was like, I need to go because my eye
You're
is
getting that
conjunctivitis or something, and like knew something was wrong. And I was like, I cannot touch anything. Like I have to leave.
Yeah.
And they didn't let me. And I was like, this is not right.
So potentially you gave like 10 people
I probably
pink eye.
gave people pink eye. But like they,
Yeah.
you know, it's hard to convince managers in that industry to allow you to leave sometimes.
Yeah.
And for legit reasons, you know. And then that whole sick pay thing is just unfair.
I'll bet during this crisis that there were some people, like, you know how a lot of us have been home and some people have been laid
Right.
off, but people,
We were
like some of my family members, have to work. And
Right.
like, you know, they have their bosses saying, you got to be here.
Right.
I wonder if there's cases like that where people are like, I'm a little sick. And like, well, we really need you here. So,
Oh, for sure.
yeah.
I'm totally sure that there are. And I'm sure there are places that are more understanding, you know, like
Sure.
like I will say, like where we worked, I do think we had some awesome owners and like all that stuff, like where I worked. But, you know, it doesn't change the fact that there's a bunch of bullshit that goes on. And I hope now that people are I hope that they crave to go out again after this.
Yeah.
And I hope that they have a newfound respect for people in that industry. I'm also like concerned about the servers,
Their well-being.
and their well-being and their mental health, because it's already a stressful job. And then to add on top of that, during a pandemic, the reopening, and then the 6 feet apart for the tables, and how that's going to affect their income, and how is it going to affect how the restaurant functions.
Right. And yeah, I think we were having a conversation where it's like, well, how logistically, exactly how do the workers inside manage to stay 6 feet apart all the time?
Right. I mean, we washed our hands so much from what I could remember, like my
Before-
ring tarnished and I had to get it recoated. That's how much I washed my
Yeah.
hands. Like, because you touch so much disgusting stuff.
Spittle.
Yeah. Like how does that work for a server? Like
Right.
they're going to be more
Like susceptible.
to COVID than like their table. But then it's like if they have 3 tables, how are the people just have to trust that the server's doing the right thing? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it's like both sides.
I was also wondering too, so they're saying people need to be 6 feet apart, right? How are they handling a table? Like say it's a table of 4, right? The restaurant can't know that Bob and Linda, who live next door to, Pete and Stacy, like called them and said, hey, let's go to this restaurant together.
And maybe Pete has COVID and he doesn't know it.
Right. So it just seems like automatically there is a mixture.
Yeah.
There's people getting together, coming within more than 6 feet of each other. And plus I wasn't really sure, like, so is the server standing 6 feet away from the table?
Right. And
Hi, folks.
but then they have to talk through a mask. So
Right.
how is that going to work? Because
I don't
then
know.
they're going to, like, you have to touch a plate to bring it to the table.
Uh-huh.
So the chef touches it.
Plus-
Then the person that puts it on the tray to bring it to you touches it, and then the server touches. That's already 3 people touching your plate
Yeah.
to put it down for you to eat from.
I don't remember from the Hillsborough or the Florida plan, like, are people mandated to wear masks inside of restaurants?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean,
guess-
I feel like the air circulation thing. Like when I was driving down Mayberry, I saw some restaurants. They had tables set out in the parking lot, 6 feet apart, probably getting ready for Mother's Day. And I'm like, how is this going to work? Like I almost want to
Oh,
just drive and see.
thank you for reminding me about some of the most miserable days of the year for servers in the hospitality industry.
Mother's Day.
Mother's Day, Valentine's Day, Father's Day, New Year's Eve.
New Year's Eve is a sad one.
New Year's Eve is pretty fucking sad. And like,
It's like it's fun if like obviously the servers get to kind of sneak some drinks throughout the night, which is fun. And it's fun when if you're working with your friends, but it can be really a downer
yeah,
because I've been stuck serving a table while everybody's yelling and cheering and like excited about the ball dropping, but I'm like putting down food. So it's like,
yeah.
and and maybe for some people it doesn't matter, but you don't really make a crazy amount of money.
Hmm.
So it's like sometimes it's like any other night for a server.
Well, it's just like, I think Mother's Day more than any other one was like a marathon because most of the time when I worked somewhere, I would be scheduled a double and I'd be working from like
Yeah.
10 a.m., 9 or 10 a.m. till like 8 or 9 p.m. at night, at least. And it was already understood, yeah, there's not going to be a break today. But guess what?
Yeah.
We're going to buy pizza halfway through and you can have a couple slices.
That was always great.
Oh, I can? Cool.
I kind of thought Valentine's Day was like fun.
Oh,
Like I don't know
not-
why, but I sort of enjoyed because I would serve and also like I would schedule.
It probably was cool where you worked. But my last
yeah,
job,
maybe that's what it is.
I might have told you about this, how they would like try to fit in more tables than normally the dining room would have.
We did too.
You know how like you see sometimes in movies or skits how they'll have a speed dating thing set up where there's like a bunch of
Yeah.
tiny.
That's how it was for us.
That's what.
Except we would always have balloons for New Year's Eve and for Valentine's Day.
Oh, I remember.
And I had like
I remember that. We
I
had
had
to blow
a
them all up.
dream about these damn balloon strings because one of them had like gravy on it. This is real life though. This was real life. It had like somebody's plate got into the balloon string and then I was trying to walk
That's an au jus.
not you. And it like slapped me in my face and I got like turkey graters. Like it was probably something better than what I'm saying turkey. It was probably like lamb chop gravy. I don't know. All over my face. That sucked. I had a nightmare about it.
That sucks.
Balloon strings.
That's one of the worst things as a server where like some debris from someone's plate splashes onto your face somewhere near your mouth or actually
God.
gets on your lips.
Yeah.
That's scarring.
Got anything on there about opening wine at a table?
No, but I can remember a couple times of some intense pressure.
Oh, those like
Where,
for
if-
those of you who order wine that have it where it's like, that whole fancy show where it's like present the bottle so that
Well,
you can see it. And
Particularly, I'm thinking of when they would order an older vintage that was like a couple $100.
yeah,
And
you have to open that and you can't even set it
I can
down.
remember a couple of times where the cork had like started to disintegrate.
That was always a
That
really
shit is stressful, man.
stressful moment because you have to go get the sommelier to help you, and then you're like, oh, I'm gonna be in trouble for this one.
I can remember one where I thought that I could get the corkscrew through what was left of the cork and it fell into the wine.
No.
I just thought like, man, my ass is grass.
I was an inexperienced wine opener at a table, and I was like, well, I gotta just do it. I gotta figure it out. And the foil on
Did
the
it cut you?
wine cut me.
Yeah.
And thank God it was a woman that was so nice. Like she was
'Cause
so
you could see blood.
yeah. And I saw it and I was like, fuck. Oh my God, I feel so, like terrible right now. And the woman kind of gave me a nod, like, it's okay. And I was just like, I tried to cover it, but also like took all the foil off. And like my hand didn't touch the bottle, but still it was so embarrassing. But like if I would have had an asshole, could you imagine?
Right. Like
They would have
Oh
been
my God, this is
so mad.
disgusting.
They
Get
would
your
have told the
manager.
whole table, yeah. But this lady was just like so cool about it, and she didn't tell anybody that happened. I was like, oh, thank God I had a nice person for that one.
I met some cool people while I was
So that's
working
like
there.
another pressure thing that servers have to go through.
Mm-hmm.
Servers are presenting like everything to you. It's like
Yeah.
scary, and they're talking to people they don't know every day.
Oh, here's the other one that
And
I
most servers are introverts.
experienced a lot there, where they go, okay, come here. Over there at table 4. Okay, that is so and so.
Yeah.
Very extremely important client.
Yeah.
Okay, everything needs to go perfectly at that table.
Yeah.
I mean that got to me.
I had one of those though, and like I brought out their meal, like their main course, and they laughed. Like the guy laughed, and he was like, it was like a beef tenderloin. He was like, it looks like a little piece of dog poo poo, and I was like, you guys are VIPs, and you're comparing your meat to dog shit, and you're about to eat it. Like,
Well,
what?
you make an interesting point though, because
What is wrong with you?
I feel like 4 out of 5 times the manager built that situation up to me way more than it needed to be, and that the person was totally cool and laid back and didn't make a big deal
Dude,
about
these
stuff.
people would go take bread from other people's table if they ran out and they were VIP. What are they going to do now? With COVID-19, they're not going to be able to go to other people's tables and be like, can we have that?
I don't know. I always thought it was ridiculous to be told. I mean, I guess I could see how like somebody would be like, hey, that person over there is an important client to us. But I always thought like the notion that I was giving some kind of different service to all my other tables that I
Right.
might give to this really important person like just seemed absurd to me, because I thought,
Yeah.
well, I always strive for excellence, you know? So I'm going to approach every table like that. And honestly, I'd probably do a effing better job if you didn't say shit to me.
Yeah, and scare you.
Then yeah, it must go perfectly, or we will crush you. I really just wanted to get the message across to people that your servers most likely aren't making as much money as you think they are, and they are having to deal with a ton of work just to get those $5, $7, $10 tips here and there.
And a lot of them are also studying in school, trying to get a better job.
Well, also some are working parents who
Right.
probably have a second one of those
Yep.
jobs that are just trying to make ends meet.
Yep.
So really just treat these people with humanity and courtesy all the time. And if you had some, I don't know, if you had some experience in your day that made you feel shitty, don't go project that onto somebody else when you go to a restaurant. You know, one of my key things always when I was working in a restaurant was, how can you come into a restaurant to dine out, which is in of itself like a kind of people centuries ago would have viewed that as like a royal kind of experience.
Yeah.
You're going to be served, waited on, and enjoy yourself.
Right.
Don't go in already in asshole mode.
Right.
Like,
They want
you're
to help you have a good time.
you're so privileged. Maybe just gain some perspective and tell yourself that, you know?
Yeah. Maybe get to know your server a little. Ask
Yeah.
him how their day was.
Or be honest with him and go, you know what, Brad, I've had a pretty damn bad day. And Brad will probably say, you know, it'll fix that right up. An old fashioned.
An old fashioned. Yeah. But especially now during this pandemic and the reopening, I think if I was back serving tables right now, I'd find it to be very difficult, not only for myself, but for other people. Like I would want to make sure that I was doing everything on my end to be giving them the cleanest side of the plate that I touched, or whatever it is. But on top of that, your server is serving you, but they probably have a handful of tables, or it might be cut to a few tables.
Most likely these places are going to be running on like a third of the staff that they would have been.
Right.
So probably like one server will have 6 tables. I would also like to point out that since there probably are still thousands of restaurant workers just in your community that still aren't working and probably relying on food banks, you can still go to some charities like feedingamerica.org and contribute whatever you can, just to make sure that people can get food when they need it. That's all I got.
Scuba doo.
Scuba doo. Thanks for being with me, honey.
Thank you for having me.
You have listened to another episode of Into the Foxhole. Again, I'm Jeff Fox. See ya!